All right, Mike, I am going to hand it over to you just to say some opening remarks and introduce yourself and introduce Ari.
Okay, thank you so much, Greece, and thanks team with the Latin American Chamber of Commerce of Charlotte. I'm Mike Ariola. I'm the Acting District Director for the Small Business Administration based in Charlotte. Today's offering has to do with tapping into the federal contracting marketplace. The federal government is the world's largest purchaser of goods and services of all kinds to the tune of about $600 to $700 billion a year. The Small Business Act requires 23 cents out of every federal contracting dollar to go to small businesses. So that's just an immense opportunity of federal contracting work. And a lot of times when we think about federal contracts, we think about construction. It's not just construction. Think of how expansive Fort Bragg is, for one. That's an entire city of all kinds of support services, in addition to goods and services required to run a good-sized city. So it's a fair bet that anything that folks have to sell, as long as they're legitimate, are in fact things that the federal government purchases. And as far as that 23% small business contracting goal, the SBA has a number of programs that folks can tap into to get certified in order to tap into that federal contracting marketplace. There is a criterion of about, Argnaz, I forget, is it 3% or 5% for small disadvantaged businesses? 5%, yeah, I thought it was I forget sometimes. 5% of federal contracts are supposed to be going to small disadvantaged businesses. And the SBA's 8A program, which Argnaz Moradian, my teammate here in Charlotte, is going to talk about, enables folks to meet that small disadvantaged business criterion. At the end of every fiscal year, every single federal agency is subject to the SBA's scoreboard of federal contracting. Did they in fact meet their small business contracting targets for small businesses, minority-owned businesses, women-owned businesses, veteran and service-disabled veteran-owned businesses, and something called HubZone certified businesses. So all of that information is made public so that everybody gets to see whether or not these federal agencies are adhering to the goals that the federal government establishes for them at the outset. And the 8A program, like I said, as you'll see, is one such opportunity to tap into that federal contracting marketplace. So I hope you'll all excuse me if I have to drop off a little bit early. There's a lot on my plate with all the COVID relief stuff going on. But with that, I'll go ahead and pass it over to Argnaz and her capable hands, and she's going to talk about the 8A program. So Argnaz, take it away.
Thank you, Mike. Welcome, and thank you so much to the Latin American Chamber of Commerce for inviting SBA to speak on the 8A Business Development Program today. Can you all see my unlocking the 8A Business Development Program screen? Okay, great, thank you so much. Okay, so I will go ahead and get started here. Let me move this over a little bit. Okay, so we'll talk about program eligibility, benefits of the 8A program. We'll talk about some things you should consider before applying to the program. I'll briefly go over the application process and timeline and share some other helpful information about SBA in general. Okay, so as Mike was discussing with you, the federal government does have a goal. It's a federally mandated statute that 23% of all federal contracting dollars go through small business. So are spent with small business through prime contracts, okay? So furthermore, the government has these sub-goals that Mike was sharing with you earlier. To provide a little more detail on that, 5% of all federal contracting dollars must go through women-owned small businesses or economically disadvantaged women-owned small businesses. 5% must go through small disadvantaged businesses, including those businesses that have the 8A certification, which is what I'm going to focus on today. 3% must go through HubZone businesses, which not to be confused with the North Carolina State Hub program. because I know the North Carolina has a program that is called the HUB program, but this is the HUB zone program. And then 3% of federal contracting dollars must go through service-disabled veteran-owned small businesses. Okay, all of these areas have corresponding certifications that small businesses can apply for and obtain in order to allow them to bid on contracting opportunities that are set aside only for those designated certified companies. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the program eligibility for the 8A Business Development Program, which is a socially and economically disadvantaged certification program. Okay, so the 8A program overall has some development objectives. This certification has business development objectives, okay? The overarching goals of this program is to assist small businesses in management and technical assistance, to help those businesses compete for opportunities within the federal government, within the 8A set-aside program, but also to be competitive outside the 8A, eventually to be competitive outside the 8A program. That is the ultimate goal. Helping thousands of entrepreneurs understand and succeed in federal government contracting, and assisting those small businesses to graduate the firms after their term in the program, and then ultimately be viable and competitive in the broader free market system. Okay, so as I said earlier, it's a social and economically disadvantaged small business certification, okay? Which means that the individual that owns and controls the company must be both socially disadvantaged and economically disadvantaged, okay? So social disadvantage, there's a couple of different ways we can define social disadvantage in the context of this program. That number one arrow, those are the automatically presumed socially disadvantaged individuals. If you associate with those categories, those racial and ethnic categories. However, if you don't associate with those racial and ethnic categories, there's also the non-designated group criteria. So as you can see, for instance, in that designated group, gender is not a part of that designated group. So for instance, being a woman, you're not automatically presumed to be socially disadvantaged in the context of this program. However, for example, in the non-designated group criteria, it's a broader area that you can explain through narrative writing with SBA, how you have experienced prejudice throughout your career as a business owner and as an individual. So for instance, in the context of gender, so a woman, for example, I don't like to pick on the construction industry, but I usually end up picking on the construction industry. You know, a woman, we have seen women-owned construction businesses come into the program, and their social disadvantage being that they're a woman because they've explained through their narrative that, you know, as a female in the construction industry, I've experienced this, and this, which has impeded my ability to thrive in the construction industry, in a male-dominated industry. And they've been, you know, deemed socially disadvantaged on that part. So, so that's something important to consider in terms of the social disadvantage piece. As far as economic disadvantage goes, it's a little more straightforward. Your personal income averaged over 3 years cannot exceed $350,000. Your total assets at time of application and for continued eligibility cannot exceed $6 million. And your personal net worth at time of application and for continued eligibility cannot exceed $750,000. And in terms of the net worth piece, SBA will exclude any equity that you have in a primary residence, in a business, or in your official qualified retirement accounts. There's also a requirement that your business has been in existence and filed for a minimum of 2 years. However, if you feel that you would still have the potential to succeed and obtain contracts and be competitive, you can request for a waiver, a 2-year waiver. You would have to explain that, you know, you have the business management experience, you have the technical experience, you have the adequate capital, you have past performance, your business does have past performance, and that you would overall have the ability to succeed in the program, regardless of the fact that your business has only been in existence for less than 2 years. So I started talking about that 2-year waiver, and I started talking about potential for success. So that's another piece that SBA looks at when you're applying to the program is, does your business have the potential to succeed? So this program, this certification is not necessarily best suited for startup type companies or for new companies. And the reason is because, you know, we're talking about the federal government here. We're talking about contracts with the federal government. The federal government is very risk averse. They don't like to take chances. They don't like to take risks. And that also includes, you know, taking risks on new businesses, because it's risky working with a new business because they don't have that successful past performance. So SBA does look at, you know, in addition to being socially and economically disadvantaged, do you overall have the potential to succeed in the program? So they're going to look at your resume. Do you have, you know, the resume to back up running this kind of business? Do you have that technical experience to implement your business plan? Do you have some access to capital, like line of credit, that would allow you to sustain your operations, or in other words, ramp up, you know, upfront costs of a contract before, you know, the government pays? Because the government pays, but sometimes they don't pay very quickly. It could be 30 days, 60 days, sometimes 90 days before you get paid for the work that you've completed with the federal government. Do you have a record of successful performance? So do you have past performance? What kind of past performance do you have? Have you completed projects and closed out projects? And if so, do you have maybe letters of recommendation or letters of reference from your clients? And you know, to speak to the previous piece, you know, do you have the ability to demonstrate that you have the personnel, the facilities, and the equipment to be able to ramp up when needed, mobilize quickly, or mobilize as needed prior to getting paid by the federal government? So that would also mean, do you have vendor relationships, supplier relationships? So they're going to ask for information about that. Okay, let's talk about some of the benefits of the program. So one of the huge benefits of the 8A program is its set aside and sole source authority. So as I had explained before, these certifications, and we're talking about the 8A certification in this case, but these certifications, there are contract opportunities at the federal level that are set aside specifically in the 8A program so that only 8A certified companies can bid on them. So that greatly reduces your competition pool, right? Because you're only competing against other 8A certified companies. But the even more unique aspect of the 8A program, which this is nowhere else within the federal government, is the 8A program's sole source authority. So sole source means direct awarding a contract without competition, not going through the regular competitive process. The government is very big on competition. They're very big on getting, the best value or the lowest price technically acceptable. They're very big on competition. But with the 8A program, because it's a business development program, and because it's understood that businesses may not have the ability to compete, 8A certified businesses may not have all the ability and capacity to compete against, this large, very well-established business. Any contracts in the 8A program that have a total dollar value not expected to exceed $4.5 million, all of those dollar value contracts are sole sourced, which means that there's no competitive process. They're directly awarded to companies. So those companies don't have to go through, putting forth money to develop these long proposals, responding to solicitation, which is very time consuming and requires a lot of overhead. And so that really is kind of one of the big benefits of the 8A program. And really, in order to receive a sole source award, has a lot to do with your network building and your networking and your ability. Have you worked with contracting officers before at the federal level? They know the kind of work you do, and they're willing to direct award something to you without going through that competitive process. Just to give an example, in fiscal year 2019, we don't have the fiscal year 2020 numbers yet, but in fiscal year 2019, over $243 million went to 8A certified companies through the 8A program, to those 8A certified companies based in North Carolina. So that's just to 8A certified companies that were based in North Carolina through the 8A program. So those are 8A program contract dollars to North Carolina 8A companies. Another benefit of the program is that you get an assigned business opportunity specialist for your term in the program. Now, because this is a business development program and because it has very specific benefits like the sole source authority, for instance, it's only a 9-year term. So once you get certified, your small business and you as the majority owner and controller of the small business can only be in the 8A program one time for 9 years. So that's why you really want to, 9 years sounds like a long time, but it goes by quickly. So you really want to be prepared to take full advantage of the program before you get into the program. But once you're in the program for those 9 years, you get an assigned business opportunity specialist. I'm a business opportunity specialist. My colleague Joanne, who's not on the call today, she is also a business opportunity specialist. And once you get accepted into the program, your file gets transferred over to whatever state your business is headquartered. And if your business is headquartered in North Carolina, you would get transferred to SBA's North Carolina district office. And then you would get assigned to me or Joanne. And then we will help you navigate the federal contracting space for those 9 years. So, I mean, you can call us and ask us a myriad of questions, like questions about regulation, federal contract regulation, questions about responding to solicitations and proposals, questions about budgeting. There's so many different things that go along with federal contracting. And if we can't, in many cases, we can assist you and answer those questions for you. But if we cannot assist and answer those questions for you, then we know a network of support. We're part of an ecosystem, and we can refer you to the right people who can assist you. So having that business opportunity specialist by your side during those 9 years in the program is pretty helpful. You can also form 8A joint ventures, and which enable you to go after 8A contract opportunities. And you can also participate in SBA's mentor protege program. In SBA's Mentor Protege program, SBA does not find your mentor for you. The mentor is self-identified, but through SBA's Mentor Protege program, you can formalize a business development relationship with your mentor and then be in a position where you are generally not considered affiliated with your mentor, even though you and your mentor have a very close relationship. You can also receive business and management technical assistance. SBA has a program called the 7J program, which is a management and technical assistance program where the agency has hired a number of businesses that provide consulting and training. And these businesses have developed different procurement and contracting focused trainings. Some of them specifically geared to 8A firms, others less specifically geared to 8A firms and more generally geared to procurement and contracting. But we will connect you to those contract opportunities. And there's also the opportunity to join the Emerging Leaders Program, which is a business executive management program through the SBA as well as an 8A company. So some things to consider before applying to the program. Is the 8A certification right for you? Okay. So you're going to want to think about, do you currently have a mix of government and commercial revenue? So I'm not talking about you need federal contract revenue, federal government revenue, but are you working in the commercial sector, and do you have some interaction with some level of government as a contractor? So whether it be city government, state government, county government, or federal government. Do you have that general understanding of the differences perhaps between commercial work and government work with regard to, the different types of paperwork involved, the different types of rules and regulations that might be involved? Because that will only help you be more successful in the 8A program once you're accepted. Do you have the marketing ability? Do you have the ability within your company to develop a marketing plan, to do that front-end research to determine and identify who your potential government market is? Is the EPA your potential customer, the Environmental Protection Agency? Is the Centers for Disease Control your potential customer? The federal government is huge. So do you have that ability, that capability, and that capacity within your business to do that front-end work to figure out, who your target's going to be and how you're going to go after them within the federal government? Do you have the proper NAICS codes? As Mike had stated, when a lot of people think of, federal government, they think of construction contracts, because really that is one of the top NAICS codes, one of the top industry codes that's purchased within the federal government. But the federal government doesn't only buy construction. So you also want to understand through market research, how does the federal government buy goods and services, and in what numbers and levels does it buy different things? So, if you're an engineering company, does the government buy engineering services? Yes, but who within the federal government buys engineering services, and how do they purchase those services? So it's really understanding how your industry is purchased and who purchases from your industry within the federal government. Do you have the net worth requirements? We talked about the net worth requirement, $750,000 net worth, which excludes your equity in your business, equity in your residence, and any qualified IRA account. Do you have a diminished ability to compete? If you are found to be socially and economically disadvantaged, it would be presumed that you have a diminished ability to compete in the free market system. So just a continuation of, thinking about when you should apply to the 8A program is thinking about, do you have the capacity to deliver on federal contracts? Do you have cash flow? Do you have past performance? Do you have successful past performance? And also, are you open to receiving advice on growing your business? Business opportunity specialists, depending on what they find your, strengths and weaknesses to be, we may make recommendations to your business. And how open are you, to hearing recommendations from a business opportunity specialist? How open are you, if we refer you to a business development counselor, how open are you to hearing recommendations from that business development counselor? Okay, so we talked about, the government buys everything, but it does buy some things more than others. So here in North Carolina specifically, these are sort of the top 5 industry codes that are purchased within the 8A program in the state of North Carolina. So construction is number 1. Facility support services is also a big one. General administrative and management services for the federal government is also another one. Landscaping services and engineering services. And these are the top agencies, federal agencies that buy in North Carolina: the Department of Defense, Health and Human Services, General Services Administration, USDA, and HUD. But it varies state by state, it really does. So if your target market isn't North Carolina, but it's another area, then you can do that research and figure out who those top buyers are there. Application process and timeline. Okay, so this is just kind of a brief explanation of what that application process is. So applications are reviewed either out of the Philadelphia office or out of the San Francisco SBA office. We don't review applications here in North Carolina. Generally speaking, when you submit your application, there's about 15 calendar days for it to be reviewed for completeness. And if it's found to be significantly incomplete, then it's returned to the applicant with an explanation of what is missing, with no further action taken. So, they just send it back to you and they say it was significantly incomplete. We're not declining you, but these are all the things that if you were to resubmit, that you would have to submit along with your resubmission. If it's not substantially incomplete, then within those 15 days, you'll receive a deficiency letter of what needs to be submitted. And then we're just kind of going back and forth. Once the application is accepted as complete, the review process takes 90 days. And this is what if you look on that screen on the left there, that's what the landing page looks like for the application, for the 8A application. You can find the 8A application at a certify.sba.gov. That is where you find the 8A application. You do have to ensure, though, before you start the application, because the system won't actually let you start the application until you have your business profile uploaded and accepted into the federal government's system for award management. It's called sam.gov. You have to have your business profile. Any prospective federal contractor has to have their business profile uploaded into the system for award management. With this application system, which is different, it's called certify.sba.gov. It's the application system for the 8A program. In order to start your application here, you have to be able to connect your SAM profile to this system, which is why, like I said, you need to first start with SAM, get your profile up and running there, and then you can apply through certify.sba.gov. Some more helpful information. So SBA provides monthly trainings. We do ad hoc trainings where we bring in some of our resource partners, like the Government Contracting Assistance Program, for instance, is one of our resource partners. We also do monthly trainings on the certifications. So on the second Tuesday of every month, we talk about all of the certifications that you can get to be a federal contractor, small business federal contractor. The 8A is one of those certifications, but we also talk about the woman-owned small business certification. We talk about Hub Zone. We talk about service disabled veteran-owned certification. So if you want to join any of those trainings or learn about other trainings that we have, you can go to sba.gov/NC. There's a calendar of events on that page. So you go to the calendar of events, and then that's where the training is posted, and you register through the calendar of events as well. Also, to receive notifications coming out of our office or coming out of SBA headquarters or any other office with SBA, any other district office, you can go to GovDelivery. You can find GovDelivery at the bottom of the page at sba.gov/NC. You click on Get Email Updates, and then that signs you up for whichever newsletter from whichever SBA offices you want to sign up for. And if you've got any further questions in the future, my contact information is at the top there. Adignaz Varadian, Lead Business Opportunity Specialist. That's my email address, my phone number. My colleague is Mrs. Joanne Schaefers. That's her email address and phone number. And that's it for now. Thank you. And should we take some questions, or should I move it on over to Giovanni Flores?
We have a question in the chat. Ari, it says, I live in South Carolina, but I do business in North Carolina and all over the US because my business is virtual. Would I still be able to use North Carolina services?
So what services are you talking about? So with the 8A program, if you were applying to the 8A program, if you were accepted into the 8A program, your file would go to the South Carolina office, and you would be assigned a business opportunity specialist in South Carolina. In terms of our resource partners, SBA's resource partners, every single state, like the Government Contracting Assistance Program, Small Business and Technology Development Center, and our other resource partners, every state has its own resource partners, and so you would have to utilize the ones in the state where your business is headquartered.
Okay.
I've got a question for you, if you don't mind. I'm Jim Watson, and my counterpart Efren had to step out for a phone call. I'm the business rep for the Carpenters Union over North Carolina, Northern South Carolina. And something that when I'm talking to contractors, and some of them are the minority-owned SBA, WA, et cetera. Some of them that I've contacted, especially through the COVID, have expressed, yeah, I would love to be on a government contract, but I don't have the manpower. I would love to be able to grow, but I don't have the manpower. With unemployment skyrocketing right now, I can't get guys that I used to have on my books back to me because they're making more on unemployment than they were working. And I think you kind of alluded to it, where some of these small businesses could get a contract, if they had a letter stating that they had such resources, such as manpower. So, some of them want to pursue the government contracts, but haven't because they don't have, again, manpower. So if I'm in a position, and I've got 400 carpenters across North Carolina and the few counties of Northern South Carolina, to say, hey, I can absolutely provide you 40, 50, 100 carpenters for a specific contract. And the Carpenters Union has been around since 1881. So, lot longer than Small Business Association. So you can't say that we don't have manpower when I've got 500,000 carpenters nationwide and across Canada. My purpose today is, I'm information gathering so that, I'm a connect the dots kind of guy. So if I can connect somebody with small business and say, hey, you know, go this route and let them know. And if I need to write you a contract that says I can provide you so many personnel to be able to pursue this contract, then let's do that. You know, just I want to make sure that we're on the same page. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I think that now, okay, so I don't review the applications, but I think that in a situation where if a business is part of a trade association, you know, that like a carpenters trade association, then they do, you know, they could potentially have access to a number of individuals, tradesmen, to ramp up a project. So I'm not really sure if that's normally, you know, because again, there has to be an ability, SBA has to be able to see that the small business has the ability to ramp up if needed. So like I said, I don't review the application, so I don't know if a trade association and access to those tradesmen would be a part of that, but I don't see, I mean, I would think it would be something that would be considered.
I would hope it would be, especially, you know, we're looking at, you know, in Charlotte itself is getting ready to ramp up with the passing of this 2040 future plan for the next 20 years. With that, you know, just the city of Charlotte, Mecklenburg County, the surrounding communities want to have local people doing local work. And, you know, that's going to be very vital, especially for small businesses to be able to thrive. And you've had, you know, we're at a crux right now where so many small businesses have had to shut down because of COVID. And, you know, hopefully through partnerships and people getting the word out that they can have the opportunities out there. You know, I don't want to be a hindrance. I want to be a help and direct people in the right directions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, that's great. That's great. Well, thanks for sharing that information with me.
And I would say it's worth a shot, right? It's worth trying. So you know that you have the Latin Chamber here to support in any way that we can as well. I mean, this is something that we really want for our small businesses. How do we figure that out? And so grateful for the Carpenters Union that they're doing this work as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Ari. This was very, very informative. And I think as, you know, as a chamber, this is the beginning of something new for us. And I think that we can collaborate in so many ways with our unions, with our corporations. And I am hopeful that through this, we will be able to do more.
Yes, absolutely. This is the beginning of something great, I think. And thank you so much for having us on today. And thank you for sharing your feedback and your questions from the audience as well.
All right, guys. Until next time, until our next Lunch and Learn, have a great rest of the day.